About 30 minutes earlier, Pink Dragon and Golden Dragon had reached the Dragon Tomb, but found no trace of the Dark Elf, only a massive, smoldering crater. "He did it," they cheered. "Our clan chief has finally evolved into the Transcendent Rank 6, which was why, when Zhu Yi stood before the Lord, the monster was shocked. Who the hell filed the report saying this guy was low level? How could he be rank 6 already? I truly admire your growth in such a short time," the Lord snarled, voice shaking with forced superiority. That's all there is to it. The energy orb in the Lord's hand swelled like an overinflated balloon, just about to be hurled straight at Zhu, when three distinct figures leapt in, jaws wide open. "Bite it to pieces," Zhu roared, burning with rage. The command barely left his mouth before two massive beasts sank their fangs into the Lord's underarms, tearing open two gaping holes. Azure Dragon didn't bite, but charged a colossal energy sphere, and with a snap, it fired it off in a blast that blew clean through the Lord's head. The beam carved down his body from top to bottom, not just piercing but pulverizing everything it touched. His body tumbled down into the lava sea below. A cloud of white smoke sizzled up, proof that he was truly burning. But Zhu didn't smile. He knew this was just the beginning. The charred scraps, still hovering above, froze slowly. They began to drift toward one another, forming large chunks of flesh and armor. Zhu didn't move. He simply waited. Not until the giant eye reformed did he speak. "Bring out your true strength. Otherwise, you won't get another chance to show it later." The calm statement hit the Lord right in the ego. In a blink, his entire body snapped back together, still patched and rough around the edges, but fully functional. "That was just an act," he laughed maniacally. "Ha ha ha ha! Even if you didn't tell me to, I was going to go all out anyway. Now feel my power, at full strength." With that, the Lord let out a thunderous roar. Flames of spiritual energy erupted like pillars from his body. Even Azure Dragon and the willow tree let out wild howls, reacting instinctively to that wave of dark, violent energy. The clashing roars from both sides exploded in the air like spiritual cannons, pounding through the hearts of everyone nearby. Ninetails quickly spun all the tails to stabilize herself and Xiaoling, hovering high above. Sensing the danger, she leapt farther back, creating a safe distance from the two titans about to engage in a world-shaking clash. Their energy, it's on a whole different level from earlier. Xiaoling's heart was tight with worry, but this wasn't a fight she could join. She could only whisper, "Master." Across the battlefield, the Lord declared, "I'll kill you here and now. Let that be a message to all your subordinates. After that, I'll take every last one of them for myself." Zhu shot back without blinking. "I've heard lines like that more times than I can count, and every one of them is dead now." "That's because they were weak," the Lord bellowed. He opened his jaws wide and unleashed a blinding sphere of energy, a flare so bright it lit up everything, then detonated like fireworks. Sparks burst in every direction, but none of them struck anything. "That's not an attack," Zhu muttered, watching the thick white smoke roll out. He knew the bastard was transforming again. Whatever it was, he was ready. And then that monstrous body emerged once more. The energy radiating from him was so intense, the very air screamed in protest. "This is my strongest form," he declared. "Let's see how long you can last." Even from where Ninetails hovered, she and Xiaoling could feel the suffocating pressure of that dreadful energy. Xiaoling couldn't take it anymore. "We're going back," she said firmly. "This is the final battle. Who's afraid of dying now?" Ninetails' eyes gleamed with determination. "All right," she answered. The Lord's attack began with a gleaming anchor arm, freshly painted to match every joint, blazing with flames that were clearly no ordinary fire, and aimed to deliver a devastating backhand to Zhu face. A second before impact, Zhu still stood unmoving, but once the strike landed, he was gone. All that remained was a snake peeking out like grilled meat on a stick. Had it hit or not? Why did the Lord's eyes suddenly bulge like that? Something black as pitch had intercepted the blow. An entity with bark-covered joints and strength on par with the attacker. It was another form of Zhu, a form built purely for physical might and agility, acting completely independently from his dark elf self. "How many damn bodies do you have?" the Lord screamed in frustration. Not that Zhu cared to explain. If the bastard wanted answers, he could just stand there and take a beating. But now the Lord had changed his mind. Who cared how many bodies the guy had? His many eyes lit up, all converging into a blazing beam aimed straight at Yizu. He took the hit squarely. The flames grew fiercer by the second, but with a single wave of the hand, Zhu dispersed them like dust in the wind. Mutant Tree wasn't just strong and nimble, his defenses were ironclad. The Lord's fire scattered like burnt paper, while the one who nullified it did so with insulting ease. Before the smoke even cleared, Zhu Yizu's massive hand clenched, prepping another brutal strike. The Lord didn't dare hesitate. Roots swirled into a massive shield before him, but it was too late. The shield barely formed when the punch landed. Wham! A hole tore straight through his chest. His body warped and writhed grotesquely, no longer resembling anything humanoid. But that still wasn't enough for Zhu Yizu. His bloodshot eyes burned with fury. He wanted more. Was that what they called the legendary Thunder Punch? In truth, it was just Yizu's raw strength. No spiritual energy added, yet it left the Lord coughing and sputtering. It was a devastating blow. His body didn't even bother trying to regenerate. Or maybe it just couldn't, because his mind was still stuck on that stoic, silent figure of the dark elf version of Zhu Yizu, staring down at him like a god ready to strike. Then came a deafening crash. Shards of glass, or what looked like them, exploded into the air, floating in perfect formation around Mutant Tree. Beautiful as a dream, but lethal beyond imagination. This was the Shimmering Galaxy Attack, a technique so sharp that Zhu Yizu once had to test it in outer space just to make sure it wouldn't crack Earth's atmosphere. It was one of his trump cards, now unleashed with only one target, the Lord. A savage scream erupted from the creature when the beast backed into a corner. Hundreds of shimmering arcs rained down on him all at once. Their force rattled the very air. The space around them cracked, splintering with violent tremors. Each strike pushed the Lord back harder than the last, until he was forced near the edge of the lava sea. Before he could recover, a blackened root shot up from the magma, wrapping around him and lifting him into the air. What is this? He stared in confusion, noticing strange fire orbs floating slowly around him. At first, he thought the floating fire orbs were just sparks from the lava. Wrong. Flame shard rain all detonated at once destructively. The damage left the Lord's body riddled with holes before it dropped straight into the molten sea. By the time Ninetails arrived, she saw the charred corpse plunge into the magma, while her master stood firm and unscathed. The tide of battle had officially turned. Her master's power was just too overwhelming. Excitement tinged her voice, but Xiaoling couldn't shake the unease in her gut. Why? Do I feel like Master hasn't even used his full strength yet? The question sounded absurd if they were already dominating. Why wouldn't he be holding back? But there it was. Zhu Yizu's expression was pitch black with tension. Something was still bothering him. He stared down at the pile of gore and growled, "Get up! I'm not done playing." "What did you say?" The Lord, riddled with holes and lying there like a torn-up puppet, should have looked pitiful. Hell no, don't be fooled. It was all an act. A rank 6 transcendent powerhouse wasn't that easy to kill. "Tree of Life," he commanded, and from within his body, white roots emerged, quickly patching every hole, reconstructing a new outer form. In no time, he was back on his feet. Mouth wide open, he lunged straight for Zhu Yizu. "I'm not your toy." He didn't even finish his comeback. His bright red head got snapped backward by a thick, rigid root, but he flexed and ripped it off with sheer brute strength, channeling the power of the god of war. Then, the Lord summoned elemental force. A blinding red beam of concentrated destruction blasted forward, aimed at breaking any lesser elemental construct. Too bad for him, Zhu Yizu was also an elemental master, a veteran of digging trenches at high speeds. With a swift gesture, earth elements surged up, forming a rock-solid wall to block the blast instantly. The Lord sneered, "I possess the powers of every god." He was a big deal indeed, but Zhu Yizu wasn't lacking either. Let him taste a little thunder while a bolt of lightning descended from the heavens, crashing down to shut him up. Then, from beneath the lava sea, dozens of roots rose, sprouting distinct canopies. They emerged like sentient beings, snaring the Lord in place and pinning him down hard. Only now did he realize these weren't roots with leaves. A whole damn forest had grown out of lava. Impossible. Even with elemental power, nature couldn't thrive in fire. But with Zhu Yizu, apparently the rules didn't apply. Having pinned his target, Zhu Yizu calmly said, "This war has dragged on long enough. It's time to end it." "Like hell it is," the Lord roared. With one final writhing twist, his red head detached, leaping from his restrained body. In seconds, he split into two monstrous variants with bull heads and horse faces. New forms, and just like that, the battle evened out again. Well, sort of. Zhu Yizu still had a dark elf that hadn't even moved yet. "I won't lose," both beastly versions shouted in unison, sounding surprisingly badass. But Zhu Yizu had no time for games. He invoked Time Freeze, just as the two charged at him. Time stopped. In that frozen moment, Yizu unleashed his 9 big tree roots, each one embodying a different elemental force. Every root slapped straight into the faces of the two variant clones. Not a single strike missed. After landing 2 hits, The remaining 7 roots pounced and slammed the 2 clones into the ground without hesitation. It didn't even look that difficult yet, till the willow tree let out a thunderous roar. Just as one clone opened its mouth, bam! A high-quality punch exploded in its throat, setting off a violent blast. The lava sea below became a stunning backdrop to showcase Zuyizu's raw might. Even Xiaoling, whose power had forged this lava, couldn't get too close. All she could do was stare at her master's tall, unwavering silhouette. Never once did he falter. Thick dust filled the air. The heat made people sweat by proximity. Then a lone eye popped out from the haze, wide and wild, classic signature of the Lord. But weirdly enough, it didn't attack. Instead, a desperate voice cried out from behind, Heal! The dark elf burst from the side and punted the disfigured blob clean across the battlefield. Zuyizu didn't hold back at all. The thing flew through the air and smacked into a rocky ledge near the lava. Not even round enough to roll anymore, it collapsed in a coughing heap. The only thing left intact was its one eye. Zuyizu stepped forward and stomped on that eye. A loud, squelching crunch rang out. He looked completely done with this nonsense, yet he still gave it a chance to speak. I ask, you answer. If I don't like your answer, I'll gouge this eye into mush right here. The Lord just laid there beneath Zuyizu's foot, waiting for judgment. But why did it end so easily? Even the Lord himself was wondering. How the hell did I lose this fast? Just how deep does this guy's power run? Zuyizu glared down and finally asked, what was your great emperor's purpose in coming to Earth? What came back was a cackling laugh. Oh, are you scared now? If Zuyizu had anything in short supply, it was patience for enemies. A sharp root pierced straight into the eye, following with the agonized scream expectedly. Zuyizu warned it already, yet this stubborn bastard still play along. Let's see how long he can keep that up. Fruit. Earth and Azure Star are both fruits of Great Emperor. They are his food. It's not just Earth. All the plants in the universe are his food. Everything belongs to him. Earth has less than a year left. Azure Star is already nearly gone. Great Emperor will arrive soon. We've set up countless teleportation arrays here, all to bring him faster. The idea that this whole planet could be eaten like a fruit was a horrifying thought. But before Zuyizu could press further, a giant gash tore open the sky behind him. The starry void above poured light down onto his silver hair. He stared up with eyes locked, as he knew this portal wasn't opened by him. He's here! Great Emperor! The Lord shrieked, the single eye trembling with ecstasy. It laughed like a lunatic as the tear widened, split deeper into the void. Just then, Ninetail arrived with Xiaoling on her back. Both immediately noticing the void appeared in the sky. No, not the sky actually. Another void passage has opened up within the void. The moment the rift opened, the Lord couldn't hold back his smugness. So what if I've told you everything? You can't change a damn thing. Zuyizu was still deep in thought about Azure Star, lost somewhere in the distant void. That's the only reason he hadn't smacked that foul mouth shut yet. Looks like the reason for Azure Star being within the void is because it was sent here with those black pillar formations. Then making use of these formations, they will teleport Great Emperor over. The spatial rift continued to widen until a single red thread appeared at its center. It widened horizontally, and then a blood-red eye emerged, glaring straight down at Zuyizu. A chilling wave of dread washed over him, cold sweat instantly soaking his back. From the sky echoed a ghostly, ancient voice that was so old, it felt like it had existed since time began. We meet again, mutant tree. Literally everyone could see that gigantic eye. Xiaoling stood frozen, pale as death. Ninetails knew that feeling. It made her jaws locked open, trying to force down the surge of terror threatening to strangle its throat. This wasn't the fear of facing an enemy, but the fear from recognizing the truth of the universe. As the others drowned in dread, the giant eye flared, and a pillar of light blinding like a second sun exploded from it. Zuyizu roared, "You will not destroy this world." He grew, immediately expanding into his largest possible form, ready to stand toe-to-toe with Great Emperor's might. Even as fear coiled in his gut, he transformed in time just as the death beam launched down toward this planet. Xiaoling, hold on to me. No one knew what they were going to do next, but everyone could feel the impending doom. Only the Lord's laughter pierced the chaos. Ha! Great Emperor, devour this world! The blinding crimson beam shot down, meant to crush Zuyizu where he stood, but he held firm, with both arms raised high, bracing the world against the unimaginable weight. The Lord's single remaining eye was blasted aside like a piece of trash. Xiaoling and Ninetails clung to each other, struggling not to be swept away. And Zuyizu, he could hear his body tearing apart, skin cracking, bones groaning. The pillar didn't stop, it felt endless. Zuyizu clawed at it, gripping chunks of cosmic power and ripping them apart, like a man holding up the heavens with both hands, until finally he punched upward with his all might. A blast of his own erupted, piercing the sky. It shattered the void and hurled the beam back into the stars. Great Emperor looked down, watched him still standing, and for a brief moment, he seemed surprised to do anything else. I am no longer who I was, Zuyizu roared. Even the Lord, still barely clinging to consciousness, was stunned beyond belief. A strike from Great Emperor got deflected. The response from the gigantic eye came with dozens of massive, inky black tentacles slithered out of the void. You've gotten stronger. Whether praise or provocation, it was unclear. But Zuyizu didn't care. He was waiting for this exact line to shot back. Back on the moon, you gave me a great gift. This time, I'm returning the favor. But the other side answered calmly, my body is far too massive, not convenient for battle. Yet even as he said that, those tentacles reached further down to Azure Planet, and when they touched the lava sea, their true form was revealed. They weren't living tentacles. They were ancient, gnarled roots. And Xiaoling's eyes widened, because from the start, it felt too familiar. The way it was forming looked just like how her master transformed. And now, right before Zuyizu, a massive tree giant stood tall with a blazing red core. It resembled him a lot. I've adjusted my form to match yours. Let's see just how much you've grown. The moment those words dropped, silence. Even the Lord's lone eyeball started to sweat bullets. Great Emperor wants to fight? As for Zuyizu, he twisted his own roots and accepted the challenge without hesitation. Then I show my true strength. His two sharp crimson horns flared, that round green face glowing with determination. But no one, not a single soul here expected what happened next, because it wasn't just the form, it wasn't just the shape that mirrored Zuyizu. Even Ninetails nearly jumped in place, her tails bursting into flames. That's the Master's appearance. It's not just the appearance, even his spirit power and aura are exactly the same. Sure, Great Emperor looked more ancient, more decayed. Zuyizu had never taken on such an old form. But can aura be copied? Even he stood frozen for several seconds, reeling with questions. No one spoke except, of course, that drama-obsessed eyeball. Heh, the mutant tree is dead for sure now. The spirit power that Great Emperor is emitting far exceeds yours. It was the same worry Xiaoling held, but couldn't bring herself to voice aloud. Can Master really win this? Great Emperor surged with power, flaring his might in an overwhelming show of force firsthand. Now let me experience the power that defeated darkness. That pressure alone could crush anyone under rank 6. Zuyizu nodded casually. Your spirit is extraordinary indeed. Above them, the rift in space quietly closed like the final bell signaling the start of the real fight. Zuyizu narrowed his eyes, speaking directly to Great Emperor. So, it's also time for me to show off my full strength. That damn Lord had to interrupt again with his high tone. That tree was still holding back. A new portal ripped open in the sky that had different color of Great Emperor's. What came through was the true body of the mutated willow tree. Just looking at his form was enough to feel the crushing pressure radiating off it. Even the Lord was completely overwhelmed. That aura was possibly even stronger than Great Emperor's. Even Ninetails and Xiaoling felt suffocated with this aura that they immediately retreated, afraid of being crushed by their own master's force. Every time I advance, for my body to support my immense spirit power, I have to restructure it. And now this is my new form. Next up will be my battle form. Zuyizu returned his soul into his true body to declare. A suffocating pressure surged up. Even Great Emperor was caught off guard. Crackling sounds of raging energy erupted. Then came Zuyizu's voice, calm but firm. Great Emperor, this planet does not belong to you. Suddenly, cyclones spun from thin air, forming dense spirals. A hand pierced through the void. Then the chest, pulsing with power, rough and fierce, made from bark dark as midnight. A foot like a titan's shifted slightly. Next came the head armored to the brim. The battle form of the willow was now fully revealed. As for the earth, don't even think about getting it, he growled. The eye of heaven opened wide on his forehead, which was identical to Great Emperor's, save for its color. Knowing this would be a true test of might, Great Emperor didn't hesitate. Then prove it, with your strength. He roared and launched first move, Broken Feather of Flame. Zuyizu shot forward. Lightning manipulation and piercing thunder were activated. Bolts of crackling lightning exploded outward, intercepting the entire fiery storm. Tens of kilometers around were scorched, but the entire attack was neutralized. The Lord, still too busy spectating, was fried like a cheap circuit. Even from far outside the battlefield, Xiaoling could still feel the force. Great Emperor wasn't even injured. Not bad. That move of yours is quite fascinating. Let me try it too. When he copied Time Freeze, the willow's body froze instantly, like it'd been cast in stone. The Emperor lunged forward, gathered his 9 rooted strikes with hardened tips, and drove them into Yizu's face and chest. Bark shattered, but that wasn't his real body. From the right, a shadow moved. Before Great Emperor could react, a massive blow slammed into his chest, sending him flying back 2 miles, crushing everything beneath. He laughed hard seeing that scene, and even when Zhu Yizu launched his next technique, Dazzling Galaxy. In the other side, Great Emperor summoned an earthen wall that was thick and dense to deafen. At first it seemed even, but when galaxy blades punched through, one by one, they shredded the wall and kept going, straight for the Emperor. His defense shattered. He had no time to block. Zhu Yizu was already upon him, grabbing the enormous eye, roaring, "This is how you're supposed to use time freeze." Everything went still as soon as time froze was activated. Even the rocks midair paused. Only his arm kept moving. Great Emperor felt the real threat in his soul. If this connected, he was done for. But just as Zhu Yizu was about to strike, a blade of light cut across his neck, almost snapping it clean off. Great Emperor was moving. He wasn't affected by time freeze? Xiaoling and Ninetails were well outside the field's range, watched it all with terrifying clarity. Even the Lord for once shut his damn mouth. A violent shockwave echoed when 2 titans exchanged a friendly touch. At the moment of impact, both were blasted away in opposite directions, a clear testament to the terrifying strength of each. When they finally skidded to a stop, dragging across the battlefield, the sky above had already changed. A massive gash split across Azure Star's heavens, revealing the endless black void of the cosmos beyond. Both sides stood, lost in thought. Zhu Yizu was shaken to see his time freeze, once his proudest ace, meant nothing to his enemy. Great Emperor thought the same, but of course he said it out loud. "Looks like that technique is useless against me." With a casual flick of the wrist, he summoned a swirling red sphere, the boom. No warning. It exploded in size, growing 30 times larger, ready to vaporize all. Zhu Yizu's guard shot to maximum. "You're going to destroy the planet?" he roared in disbelief. "Aren't you going to stop me?" Great Emperor replied so calm. Zhu Yizu said nothing more. He braced himself, prepared for a collision. But the Lord? He wasn't ready. He screeched like a banshee. "No, please, Great Emperor. I don't want to die." But Great Emperor ignored him, and when fully charged, he hurled the sphere forward with loud sound. Whoosh! Ninetails had already sprinted far ahead, but knew immediately they wouldn't outrun it. "Xiaoling, hold on tight!" she screamed. The light was right behind them, too fast. No shield could stop this. Even running now would be meaningless. And just when death was at their heels, Zhu Yizu appeared right in front of the bomb. Xiaoling's eyes filled with panic and awe. Master can't possibly block that. But she couldn't just go there and help him out, because he was the only one here can actually touch the energy without bearing to ashes. Great Emperor just laughed. "You think flattery will save you?" He kept laughing until Zhu Yizu touched the bomb with his bare hands, then his entire body. He dug his feet in, then with one roaring motion, he hurled the entire thing into the sky. The sea of magma swirled violently below, shaken by the raw force. Everyone watching with wide eyes, speechless, shared the same thoughts. He just threw that? Like it was nothing? Every face on the field showed disbelief. Even Great Emperor looked stunned. But that wasn't all. Zhu Yizu didn't just block it. He launched it with a velocity so tremendous, it tore through the atmosphere. The massive energy sphere arched like a comet, ripping clouds apart as it soared beyond Azure Star itself. Finally, it hit the outer barrier and shattered it like glass. Azure Star was now free. The Lord was stunned with the idea. This world is no longer under Great Emperor's control. A rush of darkness swept in like a whirlwind, enveloping Great Emperor in an instant. Had it not taken shape from angular square segments, he might not have recognized it as Zhu Yizu's domain of darkness. "I can't see. All my senses are gone." Great Emperor couldn't hear what Ziyu said from the outside. "Looks like I won't need another year. We can settle everything here today," Zhu Yizu muttered. His whole body began to glow, infused with the brilliance of the enhanced 9 grand root reinforcement. Inside that darkness, where no perception could survive, Great Emperor was pierced from all sides by roots strengthened beyond limit. From the outside, all one could see was a black orb slammed into the magma ocean below, its surface crackling violently. The darkness began to splinter, large chunks breaking away, burst apart, scattering into the air like shattered obsidian. From the wreckage, a mangled mess shot out. Root fragments trailed along, tumbling into the magma sea below. White steam rose sharply where they landed. There was no wind today. Even squinting, no one could make out what exactly had fallen. All that was clear to the Lord was a thick, choking dust cloud and a single unmoving root. "What happened in there?" it whispered, sweat dripping. Was it possible that the almighty great emperor got launched out? As insane as it sounded, it was the truth. What once was a towering god was now reduced to a floating clump, and a single enormous blood-red eye drifting through the air. The Lord was petrified. Did Great Emperor seriously lose? Heavy footsteps very close when Zhu Yizu approached, towering, unshaken, unscarred. His eyes held killing intent, ready to strike again if the enemy so much as twitched. Ninetails and Xiaoling squealed with joy. Master won! Master won! They rushed toward him, though not too close, still shaken by earlier blasts. Great Emperor didn't even try to regenerate. It just stared at him. You must be very pleased with yourself right now. The only reply was a series of roots aimed directly at its remains. One wrong move, he'd skewer it. Zhu Yizu didn't waste words. You're already dying. Save your breath. For the Lord, the world slowed down. He could still see, but his heart was spiraling into despair. Great Emperor, defeated? How strong is that mutant tree? He didn't even notice the giant foot about to stomp where he lay. The impact missed by just 3 meters. Magma shot upward in tall spires, and the Lord was tossed aside like trash. Zhu Yizu's voice thundered beside its ear. You're just a nuisance now. Time to become nutrients for my dimension of life. A dozen roots burst from a new space rift, wrapped around the Lord, and yanked it inside. Only as it vanished did it scream, "No! Great Emperor, save me!" The noisy commentator silenced for good right when the space closed. You done playing, Great Emperor? Zhu Yizu asked coldly. I'm ending this. Today. He lunged forward with the sharp tips of his roots aimed straight at the Emperor's core. Just then a calm voice. You can't kill me. Thinking it was just a threat, Zhu Yizu shot back coldly. No one can kill me either, and you're not escaping this place. Great Emperor chuckled softly. If I want to leave, you won't be able to stop me. From behind the Emperor, the void of space began to ripple, spreading fast like a curtain drawn across the sky. Then, dozens of black towers fell from the heavens, all at once. They tilted as they landed, lightly brushing against one another, before standing upright on their own, forming a perfect circle around the Emperor. But this wasn't his doing. Even Great Emperor was stunned. What are these pillars doing here? He muttered. Just then, another spatial rift opened, and from it emerged the beasts of Misty Mountain. Atop the white tiger, Xiaolan spoke calmly. All 72 stone pillars have been removed. It wasn't too hard to find them all, just spent a bit of time looking. Ninetails rushed over, overjoyed to see everyone alive and well. As they emerged, the portal behind them sealed shut. Great Emperor watched in shock. Not only did they use his original path to enter, they even sealed it shut after. Still, he sneered at Zhu Yizu. Even so, you can't kill me. With the game clearly over, he spoke openly. You've only been fighting a mere clone of mine. Zhu Yizu had suspected something was off. How could someone who devours entire galaxies be this easy to handle? But to hear that this was merely a clone still hit hard. My true power, Great Emperor continued, is 4,000 times stronger than this one. At those words, his giant red eye lit up, emitting rays like it was about to vanish. His final voice echoed. I truly look forward to our next encounter. For now, I leave this planet in your care. Next time, I'll send even stronger subordinates. Just wait for me. Zhu Yizu immediately launched his roots to grab hold of the lunatic Emperor. Even Ninetails realized he was about to self-destruct. With power on that scale, a self-destruction would erase the entire planet. Damn it, you piece of... Zhu Yizu cursed, activating his full strength, enhanced 9 grand roots. He wrapped them tightly around the Emperor, forming a solid sphere, blocking off any explosion from escaping. Even with only a few beams of light leaking through the cracks, the force of the blast was monstrous. Every bit of surface magma evaporated instantly. Inside their protective dome, Ninetails' group struggled to hold their ground. Just a fraction of that energy was enough to rattle them to the core. White Tiger, who just arrived, hadn't even done anything yet and already had to dodge for his life. Moments later, Zhu Yizu stood alone in a thick, suffocating cloud of smoke. What remained of Great Emperor was barely anything at all. That bastard had just come, made a mess, then blew himself up, leaving behind a vague threat. He stomped hard to vent, then looked around, 100-kilometer radius utterly annihilated, and that was just the aftermath. Had he not intervened in time, his entire planet would have turned to dust. His giant tree form had blocked the blast, but not without taking damage. The hardened roots lost their tips, burned clean off. The long war was finally over. He shifted back into his dark spirit form, quietly reflecting. Master! Ninetails' voice rang out. No answer. It called again, now more anxious. What should we do next? He frowned and replied, every force behind this planet has been purged. From now on, our time will be spent fully seizing control of this planet, gathering every power under our command. Ninetails regained her usual calm and gave a small nod. Then Zhu Yizu called out to Xiaoling. I'll save your friends. You go to the dimension of life first. If the master had said it, it would surely be done. Xiaoling lit up with relief and replied immediately, yes. Inside the dimension of life, the lone red eye of the mutant leader floated silently. Since being cast in here, the screen stayed unchanged until a familiar footstep echoed. A shadow loomed overhead. Zuizu had come to settle the score. Now the fear set in. It began to babble. Don't kill me. Let me join you. I'll serve under your command. Just spare me. A second later, he was silenced by 5 roots piercing straight into his eye. He struggled with all he had, but only found unbearable agony as his very life essence was gouged out. Zuizu had no patience for turncoats. He acted with brutal decisiveness, ripping the creature apart, leaving nothing behind. Next, the black dragon with pink fur was tossed to the ground with a heavy thud. But as Zuizu looked up on him, his eyes were filled not just with wrath but pain. This dragon, Black Dragon, had betrayed Dragon Island, causing him a deep, unforgettable wound. Go apologize to the old dragon. In hell. Before he could say a single word, Zuizu crushed him completely. He was never meant to survive. Tiny roots burst out next, wrapping around his broken body, and pressed him deep into the ground, fed him to the dimension of life, turning the traitor into nourishment. Then Zuizu turned to face the ancient tree of life. After its fusion with the mutant leader ended, he had reverted to his original form, a massive ancient tree. Now it's your turn, ancient tree of life. I won't kill you, it would be a waste, but to make use of you, I'll have to erase your divine consciousness. Just like he did with the Sea King before. He reached into the tree's core, pulling out the divine will and crushed it without mercy. From the hole left behind, green light poured out life essence. It moved instinctively, healing itself, forming new branches full of vitality. Zuizu let the tree continue growing in this world. Eventually, he would harness its strength. Suddenly, a green drop of sap fell and formed a giant sphere inside were the superhumans, Xiaoling's teammates. Zuizu had guessed right. The ancient tree of life, once it absorbed someone, could also recreate them. But one detail shocked even him. Among them was God of Dreams. She lay silently, eyes closed, but unmistakably alive. Zuizu hadn't yet decided what to do with her. For now, he'd seal her in the Void Realm, save her for later. This wasn't mercy, it was punishment for going against him. Zuizu stood tall atop the black snake, gazing into the wide blue skies above. This planet was finally fully under his control, and the ones from Misty Mountain now had a new mission, to gather every force on Azure Star and bring them all under the Willow Tree's command. The post-battle cleanup was left to the underlings. Zuizu returned to Dragon Island, for he had chosen it to become the second Misty Mountain. Everywhere his enhanced roots reached, they stirred up noise. But finally, he had found a place to rest where vines swayed gently in the breeze and a calculating soul could enjoy some peace. After a while resting, Zuizu opened his eyes and took in the view of the massive willow tree where he had rooted himself. By now, he had reached rank 6 and had 2 entire planets under his control. Since arriving on this planet, Zuizu had been endlessly busy. For now, he could finally breathe. First things first, he summoned the system and pulled up his status panel. What caught his eye immediately was his species, Immortal Tree. He now had 98 million evolution points, and his current power was at rank 6, mid-stage. His innate talent, Immortality, was already at level 5. His newer skills like Time Freeze, Absolute Evolution, and Thunder Core were at level 4. Next came the specialized traits, all at level 4. Immortal Bark, Immortal Leaves, Immortal Roots, Immortal Fruits. And of course, he couldn't ignore his level 5 abilities with some unique powers, each already at level 5. The minor divine arts hadn't changed much, so what shocked Zuizu the most was his species name, Immortal Tree. So, he was no longer just a mutated willow. In the last battle, the skills of Earth Element and Flying Leaf Blades had proved extremely effective both offensively and defensively. Those would need to be upgraded. Especially Heaven's Eye, his trump card against the Emperor. Now that he had points, he would prioritize upgrading it. No hesitation, he clicked the upgrade button, dumping 50 million evolution points into that one skill. Only after confirming did he realize how cutthroat this system was. 50 million per skill? What a ripoff. Still, it was too late to back out. Ziyu gritted his teeth through the pain as a bright light shot from the top of his head into the sky. Unlike previous upgrades, this one focused solely on enhancing one skill. A moment later, the heavenly eyes was now firmly embedded in the core of the willow. It didn't look like much, but it hurt like giving birth to 8 babies at once. Sweat poured from his body like a waterfall. As the pain peaked, he suddenly felt movement on his forehead. Looking up, he realized he could see higher now. He had grown an eye on his forehead, and with it came a surge in spiritual power even stronger than before. The nine great dimension now pulsed with power. It all made sense as Heavenly Eye was deeply connected to them. Now that it was upgraded, each dimension could store even more energy ready to fuel him in battles of overwhelming scale. While he was still lost in thought, a familiar roar rang out. Thunder Dragon was racing through the skies, leading a whole squadron of dragons. They zoomed past the willow canopy without even a greeting, but their formation made for quite the majestic sight. Zuyizu noticed that the Thunder Dragon was at the head of the formation. Where were they going? Just then, the voice of Snake Woman chimed in. Word is, an undead tribe was found in the Black Forest. Their leader's a rank 4 bone dragon. Thunder Dragon wants to go try it out. Her intel network ran deep, and her habit of digging up drama meant her info was usually spot on. What shocked Zuyizu even more was that his own number 10 was now leading the dragon squad into enemy territory on their own initiative. When it returns, it'll surely be far stronger. If his subordinates were putting in this much effort, how could he afford to slack off himself? Zuyizu reminded himself not to let his guard down. There were still enemies out there, monsters like Great Emperor. His path to power was nowhere near its end. Through battle after battle, including the war against the 12 gods of Azure Star, the beasts of Misty Mountain had become exhausted. It had been a long, drawn-out war. Now, each of them was finally enjoying a rare moment of peace. Well, everyone except those who liked to stir up drama, like the guy who scammed someone out of 1,000 bamboo shoots and still hadn't paid it back. 1 month later, under Zuyizu's command, the beasts began sweeping across the planet to eliminate all remaining godly factions. The commander of the Dark Army, Dark Tiger, devoured the black elemental fruit, transforming into pure darkness itself. In just a month of conquest, it reached peak rank 4, and now carried an entirely different aura. Meanwhile, the Light Army's commander was none other than the one who mastered the light fruit, Golden-tailed Butterfly. She had her own elite troops, who helped sweep through half the continent, subduing even the most stubborn groups. She looked delicate and elegant, but in every battle, she came out on top. Many beasts died still in disbelief at the terrifying power difference. Day by day, Golden-tailed Butterfly became quieter. The burden of leading the Light Legion was heavy. She needed victories to prove her worth to her master. But what about the areas between light and dark? There, a swarm of beetle-like beasts stirred chaos. Ferocious and unpredictable, once they took flight, they became a menace to all life around them. They needed a special counter, like Bloody Crow. They're here. Get ready for combat. The beetles and the Bloodfangs collided in a devastating, all-out war. It was clear only one side might survive. Meanwhile, far off in the Black Forest, a thunderous explosion echoed. A centuries-old bone dragon had just had one of its horns snapped off, its body reduced to a throne for Thunder Dragon standing on its back. Still young, yet fiercely ambitious, its spirit and raw power were undeniable. It had a sensitivity to all things dragon, and would never allow any rogue dragon to exist beyond its control. Sleek and graceful, Ninetails held ultimate command, and nothing escaped her watchful eye. After a brutal battle, she had now reached peak rank 5. To Ursha, that promotion was nothing short of legendary. Parnas, too, was beginning to understand just how terrifyingly powerful her master must have been back on Earth if even his subordinates were this insane. On the day Ninetails leveled up, even Zuyizu saw it. After all, the pillar of energy that shot from the dragon statue into the sky was hard to miss. Even he, her master, found it hard to believe how quickly she advanced. The 8-headed serpent was growing stronger too. Her ability to consume fear from all living beings turned it into a beast with endless food supply, quickly reaching peak rank 4. As for Flash and White Tiger, though their personalities couldn't be more different, both were developing at a staggering rate. They now stood at the top, undefeated among all beasts of their rank. The skies above Dragon Island today were engulfed in flame, so scorching hot that even Snake Woman, who had lived her whole life in the desert, felt uneasy. The fire grew larger by the second, thick with spiritual energy, yet tightly controlled. The source? Xiaoling. Right in the center of that fiery vortex, she was advancing her rank, determined not to fall behind the rest of the crew. Once again, Zuyizu was stunned by the sheer power his precious daughter held. Advancing again? How far could her potential actually go when her spiritual force was rising at such a frightening pace? Whoosh! The iconic, butterfly-like flame wings of Xiaoling spread out wide as an entire kilometer. But just as she was on the verge of reaching the next level, she suddenly coughed up blood. The massive flame butterfly vanished in an instant. Xiaoling hunched over, exhausted and full of despair. This wasn't the first time she'd been forced to stop just shy of reaching peak rank 5. Why? Why did it always happen like this? Though Xiaoling felt confused, even questioning if something was wrong with her, in Zhu Yizu's eyes, she had progressed remarkably fast. She was already rank 5. Wasn't that incredible? The black serpent slithered up and called her name. Zhu Yizu immediately offered advice. You were a bit too hasty. Take it easy. Sometimes, slow and steady isn't a bad thing. He had just finished saying that when a massive pillar of fire erupted from another direction, this one even hotter than the last. No longer just flames, this was magma. At the center of this evolution storm stood the lava dragon. He looked like a demon risen from hell. His roars shook the entire island, and every flap of his colossal wings splashed magma for miles. Even Snake Woman was at a loss. Lava Dragon wasn't usually this loud or wild. She had never seen him like this before, nor did she know how to help. A blazing sphere of energy formed in Lava Dragon's throat, condensing so fast that Snake Woman didn't even process what was happening. Behind her, the Desert Serpent and Boar Warrior were already screaming from the top of the lungs. He's gonna blow the place up! Run! Even the best gossip hunters couldn't outrun the blazing shockwave Lava Dragon unleashed. Like a bullet of molten death, it shot straight towards Snake Woman's location. She had neither the strength nor the speed to survive a hit like that. In no time, a whole swath of the forest was incinerated, wiped clean. But before the fire could spread further, a network of sturdy roots absorbed it all in a flash. Zhu Yizu had arrived just in time, deploying a defensive screen that saved his underlings. Against Lava Dragon's fiery assault, he was completely unharmed. Only Snake Woman had been at real risk, so of course, she was beyond grateful. Still maintaining the root shield in front of the kids, Zhu Yizu lowered his voice and called out to Lava Dragon, "Calm yourself." He knew Lava Dragon wasn't the reckless type, but right now, the dragon was clearly not himself. He howled in agony. "I'm in so much pain. Master, there are 2 different energies within my body." Zhu Yizu narrowed his eyes, sensing the dragon's body more carefully. He was right. 2 massive energies were raging within Lava Dragon, twisting and clashing, neither willing to back down. More dangerous than the pain itself was the fact that if this went on, he would die. Zhu Yizu calmly extended his roots and spoke softly. "This'll hurt a little," then stabbed a massive root right into Lava Dragon's abdomen. The dragon coughed up a mouthful of blood, the pain so overwhelming that his eyeballs almost popped out. What Lava Dragon didn't realize was Zhu Yizu hadn't used just one root. In truth, he had deployed a whole bundle, dozens of sharp, slender roots, all piercing through him like needles. And in a single, clean strike, they shot out his back. After piercing all the way through, the roots tore open a massive cavity, pushing Lava Dragon's pain to an entirely new level. He screamed wildly, his senses fading away, nothing left but primal roars and spiritual energy surging in resistance. The molten lava burned at Zhu Yizu's roots, but the willow didn't let up. Even when Snake Woman cried out in concern, pointing out that Lava Dragon's energy was getting dangerously faint, he didn't stop. Instead, he whispered calmly, "Hang in there, Brother 4. What you suffer now, you'll earn back tenfold." Whether Lava Dragon heard it or not didn't matter. All he did was collapse backward, still howling in agony. He howled so loud, the space behind him began to splinter, as if one more second of screaming would shatter reality itself. Seeing this, Zhu Yizu swiftly unleashed the dark domain, a suffocating blackness that enveloped Lava Dragon completely, sealing him away in an isolated space, separate from Dragon Island. But Zhu Yizu didn't go in with him. He simply stood outside, sensing the chaos within, everyone watching with their breath held in silence. Snake Woman, ever the gossip, squealed in disbelief. "You seriously locked him in?" Time ticked on. Then the dark domain cracked, and out from a fissure emerged a golden hand. When the entire golden leg finally stepped out, they all knew whatever walked out now would no longer be a lava dragon. Then came the muzzle, exhaling white smoke, the heat so intense even if its pressure was stable. The temperature alone was crushing. The trio, naturally not fans of heat, instinctively backed off. Meanwhile, Snake Woman and the gang, who had been standing way too close, shrieked and scattered. Through the haze emerged a dragon's gaze, noble and unwavering, still the same mighty form, but now donned in a new divine skin, a rare transformation. Lava Dragon had survived the storm of evolution. Now, bowing respectfully before his master, he stood reborn. Zhu Yizu, always sparing with praise, gave a rare nod of approval. This new form was truly exceptional. According to the system, Lava Dragon was now a transcendent rank 5, with his physical form having reached its peak for that rank. His innate talent remained unchanged. primal rage. The angrier he got, the more terrifying his power became. On top of that, he now carried the ancient dragon bloodline. Skills like earth mastery, primal instinct, and muscle manipulation, familiar techniques from before, having all upgraded alongside him. Snake Woman and the Desert Serpent poked their heads out, staring wide-eyed. This new look? Absolutely badass. As for the Panther Trio, they were already tiny, but now standing before this version of Lava Dragon, they even smaller. Zuizu was thoroughly pleased. The two conflicting forces had fused at last. Now, Brother Four had grown far beyond what he once was. Even Lava Dragon himself could feel the raw strength coursing through every dragon-scale muscle fiber, stronger even than when they'd faced the divine guardians of Azure Planet. Still, as Zuizu said, one more step was needed to truly solidify his new strength. Go find a place to recover, he instructed briefly. Lava Dragon didn't argue. That massive frame turned and lumbered off in search of quietude. Such a massive breakthrough inevitably drew eyes from afar. Powerful beings came to observe in awe, and every last one of them felt a flicker of envy upon seeing Lava Dragon's evolved form. Eventually, he returned to his vast personal lake, a silent giant, submerged and still. Now he simply needed time to fully synchronize with the power he now possessed. Zuizu watched silently. He didn't look surprised, but truly, he hadn't expected Lava Dragon's double reversion to be this powerful. The key was the ability to fuse two opposing forces within one body. Success always found the odd ones out, huh? Suddenly, a willow root slithered like a snake around the three panther warriors, coiling gently before tightening in a flash. But only Golden Monkey got caught. He was yanked straight over to Zuizu. Face to face, the Willow Lord said nothing. He just stared silently into the monkey, his vision piercing past flesh, and what he saw shocked even him. Inside the little guy was a galaxy of colored lights with 72 different souls, each with its own distinct power. Yet the monkey's face remained as clueless and dumb as ever. Zuizu felt genuine anticipation for the day this little guy fully fused all 72 powers. When that day came, no beast, even the 10 great beasts, would be his equal. And more than anything, Zuizu was delighted. He alone knew this secret, a hidden card no one else even suspected. Sure, Golden Monkey had outstanding potential, but what really made Zuizu satisfied was how every one of his subordinates had been growing. Everyone had their own breakthroughs. They all had something special. And of course, so did he. There was no excuse not to become stronger himself. Since the day he claimed Azure Star, Zuizu knew full well, out there beyond the void, the universe was far from quiet. In some distant, unknown quadrant, beneath a black space sky, stood mountain ranges of blinding white. And somewhere among them sat a single throne, chiseled like it was made for kings. Seated upon it was a silent titan, a force of pressure so immense that the air bent around him. This was the Void Monarch, the sovereign of the void. The moment Zuizu's purple serpent tore open space and slipped through, a shockwave rippled across the distant realm. He wasn't even aware of it. To him, the void was just a new source of power to absorb. But in this vast universe, powerful beings sensed him immediately. The first was the Void Monarch himself, Titan of Ruin, known only as Greed. A new rank 6 had appeared, and he was watching. Yizu's axe serpent had been curling through the void for quite some time. It had absorbed power in silence, and now began condensing and releasing spiritual force. As it did, a glowing ring ignited on its forehead, flickering like a burning brand. The crackle of power echoed through space. With a single roar, the void shattered into hundreds of fragments. For it, breaking open new paths was child's play. Unlike Zuizu's main body or other rank 6 level clones, this one had only just reached rank 4 after absorbing pure void essence. Then the system chimed in to announce, this serpent had just become the 17th Void Monarch with the name Famine. Holy crap, that sigil was unmistakably the seal of a Void Monarch. Apparently, this body had absorbed so much void essence, it had transformed into a true void being without trying. The 17th Void Monarch, not bad at all. If it had been the main body, with rank 6 transcendent power absorbing void force, the ranking would have soared even higher. But for now, with only rank 4 strength, it still needed to grow. But the rise of the 17th Royal didn't go unnoticed. Deep within the endless expanse of the void, many eyes turned toward the newcomer. One of them belonged to Greed, Titan of Ruin. He simply sat on his throne, composed and calm, yet his gaze pierced galaxies. And within that stare, a rare flicker of surprise, because a new Void Monarch had just been born. The Void Tribe was truly too few in number. They hadn't even reached 100 members, and now they were hunted by all the races of the universe. But if that new monarch could join them, everything might change. That's what Greed believed. So he summoned a subordinate known as the 72nd Monarch, a creature like a radioactive octopus, much smaller than Greed, who knelt in reverence. "Go," Greed ordered. "Invite the new monarch to come here." Without hesitation, the 72nd Monarch launched forward, leaving a streak of glowing green light behind. As he left, Greed pondered, "That new monarch's presence. It's far beyond what a normal 17th ranked royal should possess. If we can bring him to our side, our Void tribe will rise again. No matter how many years it takes, we have to find him." With the monarch's hopes riding behind him, the 72nd Monarch hurtled through the void, heading for Azure Star, toward Dragon Island, where Zhu Yizu now reigned. At that moment, Zhu Yizu was busy shouting orders. "Thorn, restrain Glacier now." "Yes, master," she replied, and immediately lunged her vines forward, wrapping tightly around the mammoth beast whose bloodshot eyes had long lost reason. Though his main body was on Azure Star, Zhu Yizu could still sense that his purple axe serpent clone was using Titan energy to absorb an extraordinary power, the force of the void. Now awakened, it could devour void force in much larger quantities. And for someone like Zhu Yizu, a rank 6, a Titan power was useless. So without asking for permission, he transferred it straight into Glacier. Hundreds of streaks of void energy shot into the beast, like arrows piercing the world, causing a seismic tremor across the land. Waves rocked. A bunch of lazy asses swimming inside didn't care. "Here we go again." Honey Badger gave a comment before back with swimming. Thorn, however, was confused. What the heck did her master just toss into Glacier? She felt like she got teleported to another dimension. Where even was she now? Wait, never mind. She was still riding on Glacier. Except now, this ice mammoth looked like a war beast out of a fantasy novel. Even more surprising, it had grown nearly 5 times larger. Thorn, riding up top, now enjoyed a breezy wind thanks to the sheer size of this beast. Despite his monstrous form, Glacier was still a quiet type. He simply stared at Zhu Yi, Zhu with wide, grateful eyes, and a bit hesitate because he didn't even know how to repay his master. Zhu Yizu was still lost in thought. "This guy is nearly as big as Lava Dragon now. You now carry my tree core as your heart and Titan power in your blood. Soon, you'll be able to absorb void energy too. But remember, you've only fused about 40% of your power. You must continue merging them." "Yes, master." Glacier responded earnestly, his eyes never blinking. He knew his master had given him too much. While all of Dragon Island buzzed with evolution, one lazy white tiger snored on a willow branch, dreaming of the day Xiaolan would give him a graduation certificate for finishing first grade. His lovely dream was shattered by a loud rumble passing beneath him. Annoyed, he unfurled his wings and grumbled, "Can't a guy get some sleep around here?" He didn't even notice that Big Brother 7 had grown 5 times his size. Elsewhere, the ancient phoenix sat in his rocky nest, watching the 7th great beast evolve like mad. He nodded to Humelf. "Joining the mutant tree's side was the best decision I ever made. Someday, I'll surpass all the beasts here." Old as he was, he still held on to a burning desire to be recognized by his master. Once Glacier left, Zhu Yizu suddenly remembered. The tree core was given to Glacier, and the metal elemental heart was given to Kuizhou a few days ago. Hopefully, 8th brother can control it completely. Zhu Yizu had to hope because Kuizhou was currently halfway around the world, fighting a group of stubborn beasts that just wouldn't submit to the willow tree. Leading that rowdy bunch was a giant green lizard, the color of banana leaves, completely unfazed by the approaching threat. Kuizhou advanced, each step shaking the ground with his massive frame even wider than before. Oh wait, that was because he had a dead lizard clenched in his jaws, dragging it like a trophy. Eyes glaring, teeth clenching his victim, Kuizhou's aura was enough to crush the will of the others. The once stubborn group, panic-stricken right away. "Run, or we're all gonna die." And just like that, the superpowered beasts didn't even need to fight. They herded the stragglers like sheep. Everyone had to admit, since Kuizhou showed up, this battle's gone way smoother. From a distance, Yule just stood there, silent and mildly annoyed. He still hadn't gotten a single moment of action. While one after another kept leveling up, even Wine Deity wasn't one to be left behind, though today, he returned to the sacred tree with a face swollen like a steamed bun. "Oh hey, old Nine. Long time no see. Where have you been lately?" He slumped down, took a casual stroll through hell. Apparently, he hadn't died yet. He managed to crawl back, leaving his older brother shouting in vain, unable to find him. "Oh shit! I let that guy escape again." But his biggest concern wasn't hell. It was how the heck was he going to earn money to pay back Poe's 1,000 bamboo shoots. Every time he left Dragon Island, he came back with more bruises than coins. Spirit Flower had a hopeless crush with Wine Deity, butted in. "Hey, handsome, if you're looking for money, go find Longer. That kid's loaded, and he caught that loud and clear. Time passed, and eventually the beasts from Misty Mountain had fully settled on Azure Star. One day, Ninetails appeared, storming toward his master without warning. Thump! He landed on the hardened willow trunk, brimming with confidence, awaiting his master to open his eyes. Master, Azure Star is stable now. What's our next move? Simple. We're heading to various top-tier star fields for a visit. Within those star fields, there are different races that have been growing. It was clear Zuyizu was planning a new conquest, an expansion of his power across the stars. Ninetails agreed instantly. With Master's current strength, you can completely sweep through those star fields. Just then, a sudden tolling in his soul made him jolt upright. That intense hunger, it was the Void Serpent. It was howling madly in the void, devouring spiritual energy as if it were bottomless. And once it cleared one region, it launched to the next like a bolt of lightning. It had grown much, but today, something was wrong. The hunger was still there constantly and endlessly. No doubt about it, they had to start moving into the super domains soon. One peaceful day, two shadowy figures crept through the underbrush. Longer, whispered one figure, a panda. Why'd you bring me all the way out here? He didn't even turn around. There's something good. That was all it took to lure Longer along. Together, they peeked through the leaves to see steam rising, and after the steam was a soft, flawless back, pink hair flowing, following, and dreamy, alluring eyes. A girl. A drop-dead gorgeous girl. Mom, 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 mother. Longer shrieked, his nose bleeding like a faucet. Poor kid had no clue how to handle this kind of situation. The commotion was too loud that the girl screamed back. Who's there? One hand shot up to cover her chest, while her eyes locked on the noisy bush. Longair went pale, nose still dripping blood, already imagining his funeral. Then suddenly Wine Deity popped his furry little head out. It's me! I'm just an adorable panda. He barely finished that sentence before a slap sent him flying, blood spraying from his mouth. One hand still shielding her chest, the other was poised to strike again. The type of handsome of this panda might have worked on Spirit Flower, but on this girl, not a chance. If you were male, she didn't care what species you were. You were dead meat. Longer cowered behind a rock, desperately holding his breath. That speed, 80 punches per second, was no joke. If she knew he was also from the Dragon Clan, she'd probably kill him on the spot. But hey, at least Wine Deity had served as a decent distraction. Longer owed him one. Not that Wine Deity even looked at him. He just muttered under his breath, 1,000 spiritual bamboo shoots, or I'll rat you out. You tricked me? Longer screamed, lunging over to grab that stubby neck and shake the panda to death. I thought we were friends. Wine Deity shrugged. Hey, not my fault you're rich. 1,000 spiritual bamboos mean nothing to you. The two were still wrestling when Flash and White Tiger popped up for some good old gossip. Instead of whispering, though, White Tiger roared loud enough to shake the entire forest. So you guys were peeping on a girl dragon? Come on, why are there so many males? Pink Dragon exploded. Fire blasted in every direction. Trees were incinerated. Waves of steam shot into the air. She tried to drown the perverts, but they scattered like scared rabbits. The chaos didn't spread across all of Dragon Island, but Zuyizu had already found out. When he heard Pink Dragon could take human form, he couldn't close his eyes for a while. He shouldn't be looking at her like that. But damn it, he couldn't take his eyes off her massive tail. If Pink Dragon could take human form, then all Dragonkin might be able to do it too? Out of nowhere, Spirit Flower and Snake Woman appeared. They had no idea why their master was so hyped. They could transform too, but neither of them had that main character aura like Pink Dragon. Just then, Thunder Dragon returned from the battlefield and walked right into the discussion. While everyone else drooled over her beauty, he asked something else. What about me? Can I transform too? Pink Dragon furrowed her brow. What kind of dumb question is that? Of course you can, as long as you've mastered the Dragonkin transformation technique. What technique? Spill. He lunged at her, shaking her back and forth like a blender, aggressively begging her to teach him. Poor Pink Dragon, dizzy, dazed, had no idea which way was up anymore. Curious, Zhu pulled up her stat sheet. What he saw impressed him. She wielded the immortal dragon's breath, which turned her into a pillar of fire, able to incinerate everything. Her special rank 5 powers included Immortal Dragon Flame, an elite flame that only red dragons could control. Dragon's Wrath, a technique that made her spirit energy boil and explode outward. Flame Dragon Claw, claws engulfed in fire, capable of melting anything they touched. Next was Elemental Resistance, which reduced the damage taken from elemental attacks. Flame Furnace made her body feel like a blazing forge, constantly radiating terrifying heat. There were still more skills below, but what caught Zuyizu's eye the most was the final entry, Dragon Clan Forbidden Arts. Aside from transforming into a human, there was also one more terrifying ability: Infernal Heavenfire Purgatory. A forbidden spell of the Dragon Clan, it summoned boundless fire elemental essence to burn everything to ashes, truly worthy of the Dragon Clan to possess two divine forbidden arts. Even the written description of Infernal Heavenfire Purgatory was enough to make one tremble. With talent like that, Zhu Yizhu wasn't about to let her go to waste. He immediately called out, "Pink Dragon, go train in the dimension of fire." She agreed right away. She always wanted to become stronger too, but when she actually arrived at the dimension, she was left shocked, speechless. This much power? She couldn't believe this was just one of the many worlds her master had created. Zhu Yizhu too had a few divine abilities of his own. Now that he was left alone, why not train as well? And wouldn't you know it, the system popped up on its own. More than a notification, it was a suggestion, able to merge elements, combining them into one. Out of nowhere, a rainbow filled his vision, covering everything in a glowing brilliance. It took him a moment to realize this was a new ability. Streams of vibrant spirit energy bursted from every direction, casting brilliant reflections on the willow tree. Beautiful to look at, but 1 second later, that energy roared, engulfing the entire tree with unmatched savagery. Fusing elemental divine powers was like gaining an entire rank in strength. He needed time to focus. But just when he was at his busiest, uninvited guests arrived outside the void. They came aboard spaceships that looked like 3 glowing stones. Each ship contained strange, rugged figures with long they reached past their knees. Kneeling before one of them was a thin figure with long, ant-like whiskers, spoke respectfully. "My king, our patrol has discovered a planet with fully life." The one addressed as king resembled a massive insect glowing under purple light. It was clear now. Beyond the void, countless beings were already on the hunt for Zhu Yizhu because of his unparalleled power. Sooner or later, both the planets he controlled would draw even more attention, which was why, every month, Earth had at least one powerful beast stationed on it. Troops moved back and forth through spatial gates. At the moment, Earth was under the watch of Golden Monkey, a super being at rank 5, soon to be joined by Thunder Dragon. But instead of taking the void route or using specialized tunneling gates, Thunder Dragon chose to fly through the galaxy, literally. The solar system where Earth was located was far, far from Azure Star. Even Thunder Dragon needed half a month to reach it, but to him, this was the perfect kind of training. So he kept flying non-stop, until he collided with a glowing rock. Well, actually, it was a spaceship. One of the outsiders blocked his path. And now, the road to Earth suddenly seemed unreachable. Back on Azure Star, the world remained a serene, vibrant blue. From the outside, no one could tell that a 7-colored elemental storm was tearing the realm apart from within. Zhu Yizhu felt a profound warmth as he bathed in this light. The elemental storm swirled faster and faster. Fusion was almost complete. "Let's try channeling void energy too," he thought. Just a small test, a massive tornado roared to life. Faster, fiercer than he'd imagined. If he kept this up, he would soon be able to fully refine the elemental forces and ascend to an even more terrifying divine power. At Misty Mountain, there was no sign of the willow tree. Only Golden Monkey sat on a large throne, receiving word that Thunder Dragon had encountered extraterrestrial beings on his way. He growled at the messenger in disbelief, a member of Elf tribe. The elf bowed and explained he had detected life forms unlike any they had seen before, and sensed an extremely ominous aura, as if those things were enraged. Golden Monkey fell silent. Unknown life forms? And they had made a transcendent rank 5 like Thunder Dragon feel uneasy? Could they be one of the wandering races of the void? He wasn't sure, but his priority now was clear. Send help to Thunder Dragon immediately. Quick, relay this to Azure Star. Inform Ninetails at once, and have the human satellites monitor all cosmic activity constantly. Increase guards at the wormhole and the void domain. Even if we are invaded, we mustn't let the enemy destroy these 2 areas. Finally, tell everyone, be ready for battle at any time. The elf tribe member swiftly took his leave. Each order Golden Monkey gave his leader was firm and commanding. But in the ears of his 2 childhood friends, it all sounded a bit unfamiliar. Little Monkey has changed. He's amazing now, Honey Badger mumbled after a pause. Not just his words, even Wild Boar noticed it. That back, once just a kid running naked in the rain, now bore the presence of a true king. Days passed since the report of Thunder Dragon's encounter. The alien creatures were now reeling in fury from a being they called their king, howling that the wretched dragon had killed her child. "My children, find that giant dragon and tear it apart," she shrieked. Her upper body fused into a giant egg sac as she issued orders to her insect-like offspring below. And so, from the ships burst forth nearly 100 of them. Once lined up and accounted for, they took to the sky like a swarm of mosquitoes in a summer night. They were insects, hence called the insect race, a wandering species in the cosmos. Wherever they passed, no plant could grow, a race of calamity. And now they were rallying in droves, intent on finding and killing that giant dragon. They had to shout for it because Thunder Dragon had already escaped through the void back to Earth, dragging a corpse of one of the creatures he had slain. Bull Demon only needed one glance to confirm. This species had never been seen on either of their two planets. Everything they knew was from Thunder Dragon's first-hand account. "I didn't get inside those 3 giant space rocks," Thunder Dragon said, "but I killed 10 of them." Then came the scientist's turn. Yule, with his vast research network, organized gene analysis immediately. It wouldn't be long before they had a detailed report. Tracking the rest of the creatures fell under Bull Demon's authority. He carefully asked if they were heading toward Azure Star just in case. Flash jumped in. "Let them come. They'll become our prey." But Bull Demon refused to let his guard down. He gave the command. "Planet-wide curfew. Prepare for war." By the time Ninetails received the message from Azure Star, she was standing before the rainbow storm that coiled around her master. So it's a race from another stellar domain. Something this serious should be probably reported to Zhu Yizu, but Xiaoling quickly interrupted. "Not yet. Master is at the most crucial point right now." Everyone stared at the dazzling storm in silence, wondering who would be the one to reinforce Azure Star. Suddenly, a hoarse voice volunteered. "Let me go then. I can fly through space. Fight in space, no pressure at all." Then came Lava Dragon's voice. "I'll go too." Alongside Demon Phoenix, the two would form a perfect duo, able to travel through the void while maintaining peak combat power. Xiaoling had no doubts about their strength. But since word was that the enemy moved in swarms, she needed to send more reinforcements. And indeed, the vast void would soon become a fierce battlefield.